Okay, I think we should be live. Let me know if you can hear everything okay and if you can see it. And hopefully we can get this show on the road. We're going to be disassembling some video cards today. We did a lot of streams previously. It's been a little while. Most of that was because the streaming setup was just sort of in various states of dysfunction. So I think we've fixed it. This stream is intended to test that. That's why the stream is called Test Stream. Please ignore. If you did not ignore it, that's not my fault. That's all I'm saying. We made it very clear that it's a test stream and you should please ignore it, but maybe we'll have some fun here if it's all working okay. So I'm seeing a lot of comments saying sounds good, sweet. Okay, cool. So great. That's good to see that the components that should do streaming are in fact doing streaming. If you've done streaming, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. If you haven't, maybe you would. But a lot of the streaming hardware and software, it's still kind of Wild West in some ways. So anyway, looks like it's going, so sweet. I see a lot of comments that are saying back to you, Steve. So I'm glad, you know, if Intel went out of business tomorrow, if everyone only remembers one thing, I hope it's I hope it's that keynote they did. Yes, let's see. Just checking on chat. Where's the nitrous tank? There's no nitrous tank, but there's liquid nitrogen back there. That might be what you're asking about. That's a fairly fresh tank, so we're going to be hopefully rolling this stream if it all works okay. I'm planning to be live for maybe, we'll see, 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. As I was saying 90 minutes and 2 hours, I thought, why am I using both metric and imperial units? But that's not how time works. So thanks to commenters for making me second guess the numbers I say now. So yeah, we're gonna be we'll be hopefully doing some liquid nitrogen streaming for, I think, the APUs. That's what I'd like to do. Today we're gonna disassemble things and see how they look. These are the 6600 XTs. I did not think they were particularly interesting for a standalone upload, but I thought they'd be fun for a live stream where we can interact with everyone. So, all right, cool. Looks like everyone's saying looks good. Let me just send out a tweet and say we're live, and then we'll kind of get started here. We are live. Okay, that was pretty easy. All right, so I will be reading the super chat. I just saw one come through. The Stooniverse said $5, thank you. It says, testing super chat, can you feel my money? Yes, we can, it is working. I'm gonna read these on probably about a 30-minute delay. We'll get some of the earlier ones in a bit sooner, but normally we're on a little bit of a delay with super chats just so I can kind of do stuff and then do a bunch of them at once and answer questions if any come through. Okay, so I think that's about it for kind of setting the stage and explaining what we're doing. This stream, we are running the Be Quiet Silent Base 802 as the sponsor. This case actually reviewed really well for us, so we liked it because we have the airflow panel on there. Yes, we tested it mostly with the airflow panel. It actually works really well. It was a big change for Be Quiet to push more towards the airflow direction. They did that with the 500DX, which we also liked. And so the 802 is a larger mid-tower case, ATX case, and good airflow, performed well in our testing, and it was one of the ones that we said we can actually recommend it. And if you watch our channel, then you know that means a lot coming from us. So anyway, that's the sponsor. There's a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Okay. Some comments about the power supply video. Nice. Yes, we do actually have another one coming up, but I won't go into that too much right now, maybe later. So here's the first card we're going to look at. This is a PowerColor Fighter, it's called. And I'll walk through these cards a little bit. I'll look at chat after that, and we'll go through what people are saying. So these are the two I got. We don't have any other 6600 XTs right now. I am curious, actually I'll watch chat for this. Did anybody happen to buy a 6600 XT the last few days? I'm just curious. If you bought one, just type in chat which one you bought, let me know. Actually, I'd be curious the price too, if you just type in like what it was and how much, and I'll keep an eye on it. and that'll give me a better idea for what the market was actually like after the reviews, because they let us put the reviews up a day in advance of launch. So I didn't really look too closely at launch day. What is a good start to OC a 3070? Question from Wowzavol, we're going to go with $49.99. Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to try and give you a little bit of depth on this. A good start to overclock any video card is well, you need software first. So if it's NVIDIA, which yours is, you can use something like Precision or Afterburner. There's other tools too. I typically use Precision only because I have the most experience with it, but they all do about the same thing. So if you like one more than the other, just go for it. They pretty much work the same way. They're built on an NVIDIA API. And then AMD, I just use the AMD built-in tool. So to answer your question, Wowzavol, or Wowzivol, however it is, for what's a good way to start an OC on like an NVIDIA card, the way I like to do it, I pick one application that is very easy to repeat, and I just keep running that. It's really important. This is the part you need to remember. If you don't remember anything else I say, remember this part. When you are overclocking a video card, you have to validate the increases you do in frequency with some kind of score. So maybe that's 3D Mark. I think 3D Mark has some free version available with some tests that you can run. Maybe it's Superposition, which also I think has a free version. Or maybe it's just a video game that has a repeatable benchmark where you click benchmark and it goes. So you need an application that produces a score every time that's pretty consistent. And the reason you need that is because there's error correction that goes on in the background when you're overclocking something. So not even just when you're overclocking, just period. There's error correction in the background for like memory. And so it's easy to set an overclock number that's way too high, and it looks like it's running because it hasn't hard crashed or shut down, but actually it is going to score much lower. So you might end up with a worse score with your overclock than with stock. So that's what you need to watch out for. That's the part to remember. As for how to do the OC, I like to run the application fully stock. I write down the number. I then increase the power slider. I run it again fully stock with the power slider offset, write down that number, should be higher. Then I start increasing the clock. And I typically do like 50 megahertz offsets most of the time. So 50, 100, 150, you'll probably get stuck around 150 to 200 offset most NVIDIA cards. So that would be my answer to that question. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let's start looking at these. So on memory, I typically start at like 400, then go up by 100 at a time. Okay, so we've got the fighter. This is the one we used for the review because it's MSRP, and that's $380, way too expensive in our opinion for what you're getting. Gets embarrassed by the 3060 Ti, which is $20 more, especially in ray tracing performance. And the 3060 is a pretty close competitor while being much cheaper. So that was kind of our review of it. And by the way, the 3060 and Ti we were not particularly happy about either, but the 6600 XT kind of makes them look good. So maybe that was the strategy. I don't know. Maybe they're collaborating. This card I haven't looked at too much. So is this a Red Devil? These are both PowerColor. This is Red Devil. AMD sent these before the review when we were working on them. I'm just going to look at the marketing really quickly. Let's take a look at this. So, and I'll get to some of the other super chats and the chats in a little bit, but hopefully that overclocking answer was a little bit helpful. Okay, let's get a bit of a zoom on this. I'm going to see if I can just read it off of OBS instead of the box, make it easier. So what's their marketing? They talk about having a metal backplate. That, sadly, I guess, is a marketing point these days. We've seen a lot of plastic ones. Those are insulators. Offers better heat dissipation. Okay, they say dual BIOS. That's an actually valid feature, so that's good. I do like dual BIOS. It's probably a bit expensive on this card for the performance you get. Any partner model where it's considered like a generally good card, you get into territory where you're paying close to the next step up. So buy something like this, maybe you're in territory of a low-end 3060 Ti. Is it still worth it? Often no, but it depends. It depends on what you're trying to do. Dual fans, yeah, okay, not that exciting. RGB, I've never heard of that before. What is RGB? Do you know what that is, Andrew?
I'm not sure.
Is that like, what could that stand for? Rotational, gravity belt.
That sounds right.
That's pretty cool. Wow. I feel bad for talking bad about it now. It has a rotational gravity belt, RGB. Man, I want to see how that impacts the cooling. I bet it's really good. So RGB, here's a marketing feature. How about this one? Let's check out that marketing feature. Cooler. That's right. It has a heat sink. You thought that only all of the cards got coolers, but in fact, it's a marketing feature on this expensive one. Cooler. Okay. All right. That's where we are with marketing now. Oh, wait. We've got some answers on what RGB stands for from our chat. Let's see. Any real gaming bro? That's pretty good. I like that. Let's see. RGB powers the fans. At this point, not far from it. Real good benchmark. Retro gaming behemoth. That's sad if that's what they'd be marketing towards. Any other good ones? Someone says it's rainbow puke, but is it though? Is it that? I think it is. At this point, I think that's what it is. You're actually right. Okay. All right. Those are fun. Let's get a start on this. This one's really simple. We looked at it in the video, but let's go ahead and just take it apart. So we're going to be working on the mod map. This is the last day we're running the promo code Send Help on the store. We started that because of the gigabyte power supply testing we did. So the gigabyte testing it took us a few months of off and on testing to do, a lot of research because it's kind of new to us still, the power supplies. And we ran that promo code in that video and it expires today. It's 10% off the store if you do any orders on the store. And it sort of helped us to offset some of the cost for the more in-depth pieces. So really appreciate that for everyone who's ordered so far. It's been really popular. People like the code. Someone pointed out that I should do a code called Thanks Steve, and we'll probably do that next. We'll maybe wait for an Intel video to run that one. But yeah, so code Send Help on the store for 10% off, and that helps us offset the cost for doing that gigabyte piece and some upcoming power supply pieces as well. But thank you to everyone who's ordered. I'll try and shout out a couple of the orders during the stream, but no guarantees. So let's get started on this. We're going to work on the mod mat. Like I said, you can back order these. They come back into stock in September. They've been out for like 5 months now, so it will be a kind of big deal when they come back. And if you want one, you'll want to get on the list. It looks very simple. I mean, we've got the 4 screws that actually retain the cooler. So these are spring tensioned. I've never actually seen this happen on a video card. I have seen it happen on CPU coolers where a pre-built manufacturer will like over torque the CPU cooler past the spring resistance and the spring will buckle over itself. And that's never good to see. We're going to get another light in here too, so you'll get some more light in a second. So these though, they're fine. So it's 4 screws for that, 2 over here. Those 2 secure the, let's see. I'm trying to see. It looks like they just secure part of the VRM heatsink. So these 2 screws hold the heatsink to the MOSFETs. And we're bringing in the light now. That looks better, nice. Very simple video card, 2 slot, plastic shroud. So the heat sink, so the fins, this is maybe some information you could potentially use if you're maybe not buying this card, but you're buying a card at some point. I think a lot of people know this though. So the fins run left to right. The fin direction, it does matter. I wouldn't get too hung up on it if you're ordering something, but there are situations where you should pay closer attention if your case is really specific, you've got a specific airflow pattern, something like that. So if you're working with, let's say, a mini ITX case and you want to get at least some of the air out of the back and you're not going with a blower for one of many reasons, then having this left to right fin pattern can help for that situation as long as the backside actually allows an exit. So here you can see the fins butted right against the I/O plate, and the I/O plate has a lot of holes in it. So in this situation, there will be a good amount of the air, maybe, I don't know, a quarter of it or so, coming out this side. So that's something you can look for when you're buying a card. Now, other cards will do top to bottom. This one is one of those. This is the Red Devil variant. Just top to bottom, left to right, that doesn't necessarily really mean anything. Like I said, it depends on everything else. So in this situation, They have top to bottom. Obviously, air coming out of here is going to hit the PCIe slot. If this is basic for a lot of you, sorry, we'll get into the teardown in a moment. But streams are fun to kind of give some more entry-level information as well. So that'll go into the PCIe slot and the motherboard. Not the end of the world. It will work its way out eventually. It's just going to have a little bit more resistance and an obstruction when it exits. But the thing you're looking out for with top to bottom heat sinks is that the shroud doesn't extend past the actual fin stack. You'd be, maybe not if you watch this channel, I was going to say you'd be shocked, but maybe not. You'd be shocked how many manufacturers will run a shroud down past the fins and contain all of their own air. Back with XFX with their first thick, yes, that was the actual name, video card, we opened up the bottom of the shroud. I don't remember if we cut it or just disassembled it, but and it had a meaningful impact on the air flow, on the temperatures, because the air could get out of the card then. So anyway, that's what you're looking for if you buy top to bottom and you want just a quick gauge of, is this thing designed competently? You can look for that attention to detail. Do they block the fins? And you can see that this is completely obstructed over here. It's all RGB everything. However, the fins aren't left to right, so this doesn't concern me as much as if the fins were left to right, where then you're looking at it as a reviewer. I would see this. The next thing I do is I check the fin orientation, and if the fin orientation is in opposition with this, then I start thinking about what tests I can run to see if they've ruined the performance or if it didn't matter maybe. So that's kind of some basics for you. I guess in chat, go ahead and let us know if you want to see, if you want to hear me go through more stuff like that in this video. I don't know how much of this is repeat information. I'll check chat, and how much of it you might already know. Sometimes it's depends on the audience for each stream, how much, you know, how much people have seen our other videos where we might have explained that stuff. So keep an eye on chat. There are other things, of course, too, but you know, hopefully that's some basics. Let me pull up the super chats and stuff. YouTube's interface is only showing one super chat right now. That's annoying. Is there another way to see this? This is why it's a test stream. Let me see if they've changed their interface a little bit since I last did this. So what are people saying? Sure, good stuff. Okay, cool. It looks like people overall like that info. Any response from Gigabyte? Not yet. I think they're busy right now with their servers getting hacked. I think they had a bad week. It was very bad timing for them. Okay, some people saying repeat, but it's cool, and other people saying they like it. All right, let me figure out the super chat thing really quickly. I think I just need to open another window and just see. Usually it'll hold all of them, but right now it's only showing me the latest one. That's obnoxious. Okay, well, let me go back then. Hopefully, I'm gonna have to start addressing these. Maybe Keegan, it might be worth saving some of the super chats as they come in, just in case YouTube clears them if I can't find how to open it up. But I still have some on the screen, so maybe there's like a page where they actually save them. I don't know why they would do this. Okay, let me go through a few of these before they disappear. And if I missed one, sorry, we're gonna try and figure out how to open up previous super chats, but it looks like most of them are still here. I might have missed a couple of the early ones. YouTube's scrolling them off when they didn't used to. Okay. MST3K said, thanks, Steve. No problem. Back to you, MST3K. Let's see. McLovin sent $20 in and said, Steve and GN team, you guys are amazing. Well, thank you. I appreciate from the bottom of my heart. You keep... I appreciate you folks helping keep enthusiasm for PC building alive. We're trying, despite NVIDIA and AMD's best efforts with GPU prices, we're trying. Blendinator with a Blender icon, Blender avatar.
Nice.
Andrew's paying attention. Andrew said nice. Blendinator, I'm pretty sure we've seen here before. There have definitely been people with Blender names. I think this is the person I'm thinking of. Says, sup Steve, how goes the new building construction? Slow but steady. It is actually making progress now. I feel like all the decision points that were mostly stuck on, like bottlenecked on me, have been resolved. So all the various people involved in doing the work can work relatively unobstructed now, and that's a good thing. Okay, it burns When Internet Protocol is back, that's right, it burns when IP address is back. Sent $5. Said their servers blew up like their power supplies, question mark, or it just got hacked. I think it got hacked. So Saint Devil in chat says there's a gigabyte statement on video cards, like the website. I think so. I think I saw that. I don't. If that was just on the hack though, that's not what I meant. I meant the responding to our power supply piece. If they responded to video cards, that'd be weird because then that meant they ignored our email. But TNB Delta, I'm gonna get through as many of these as I can. We'll go back to this. Says EK launched a new active backplate for GPUs. Will Gamers Nexus cover it? I'm not sure yet. I do want to. I don't know if so the problem right now with GPU anything is people are, I think, maybe you aren't specifically, but I can see it in the numbers, are maybe fatigued or upset with the GPU market. So getting views on accessory GPU content like backplates is kind of difficult. And there's a cost involved to doing that type of testing. So we have to navigate that, obviously. Let's see, did I miss any here? Oh yeah, a couple. Let's get those. Leonard said, wouldn't blocking the front of the card in a left-right orientation basically turn such a card into a glorified blower style cooler? It can. It depends if there's anywhere else for that air to get out. You lose some of the pressure if it's not intentional, because with a blower style cooler, they'll actually do a hook like that over where the fan is. And the point of the hook is the fan sits in the middle of it, the squirrel cage fan, and it spins the air into the hook, and then all of it gets forced out the back of the case. Whereas if it's sort of accidental, you might not have as much pressure. And so it can compensate. Maybe the fin stack plus heat pipe construction ends up being better overall. It doesn't matter. But you would lose out on the pressure. Whether or not that matters is different, though. Let's see. Joshua Skips said, I'm upgrading my mid-size static mod map pre-order. Personalized signature question mark back to you, Steve. Right now, we don't have a way to personalize them. We do have the signature option, which it sounds like you might have already gotten. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to do like personalizations because the distribution is separate from me. It's a different place. And so I'll go over, sign a bunch of the mouse mats or pads or whatever we're signing. And because the sort of shipping team and the order processing guy and me, we're all separate, we don't have really a good way to do customizations. Josh JLMG says, I was wondering if you had any experience with the CPU benchmark BeamNG drive. I've heard of it. It seems to be based on internal CPU latency, but I don't have enough CPUs to test it. I have no experience with it, but I have heard of the game. I think it's a game, right? Kutsu Jarble says, just dropping in to say hi. Hi, thank you. And the last one I'm gonna read for right now, actually, Keegan's got one up, or a couple up over there too. Says Hani G, says Gigabyte sent out a PR. Oh, did they? Sent out a PR response regarding exploding PSUs. They say it happens because they were tested close to 120 and 150%, and what they're doing is lowering the OPP point range and wattages. I thought they would do something like that. I'll read the statement and we'll probably respond to it. If they're actually lowering the OPP point, the overpower protection point, that would be good, because they're insane right now. Like, as we showed in our video, they didn't even hit their OPP point. The OPP was, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think one of them was like 1025 or 1050 watts or something anyway. It wasn't tripping till far after that. So it's like, you know, guys, you didn't even do the OPP right to complain about testing at OPP. But, and once again, one of them did blow up at 60%. So, I don't know. Sounds like a problem. Okay. So, Keegan, have you been able to grab most of the ones coming in? Yeah. Okay, cool. If you can just, I guess, keep them somewhere in case they disappear, and then I'll go back through them.
Yeah, they are disappearing, and I am.
Yeah, I've got the back-end interface, though, for YouTube is supposed to keep them. It looks like it is now, so that's good. I think we just lost maybe like 3 at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But it does look like it's actually keeping them now. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, guys, we're going to get back to disassembly. I was just trying to make sure we didn't it's a test stream, right? So trying to make sure I still understand the YouTube interface after like 8 months of not streaming. Okay. Let's get back to this. You done with OPP? All right. The comments about the gigabyte power supplies are great. Yeah, I thought they would try to maybe twist things. I hope they fix it though. I need to read that statement. If they're actually reducing OPP, I'd be pretty happy with that, but they still need to fix the rest of it. Whatever's wrong with it, because there's something. Also, the video card that exploded. Yeah, that was kind of fun. That's why we used gigabyte devices for that whole build, because it's like, I knew if something blew up, it'd be hard to kind of pinpoint necessarily if it was the power supply or not, if there's some other component problem. And so we used all gigabyte parts. And then it's still a gigabyte problem, and so we need to diagnose the GPU. Fun fact, that's a blood stain from when a cooler cut me. It does not come stock on the mod mats, so don't expect one of those. Let's take apart this fighter card. This is the MSRP one. And we're just going to alternate. I think everybody here knows this, but generally, actually I want to read that. Generally, you kind of pick a corner. It doesn't matter which one at all. Pick a corner, unscrew it maybe a quarter, halfway, next one, next one, next one. Simple stuff. I think everybody knows that. But if not, hopefully it helps you. What does that say? Warranty void if removed. Do you remember when the FTC said to notify them if companies were violating the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act about a month ago? Just wondering. Just asking for myself and 2,568 of my best friends. Okay, let's track these over here. Pretty simple card, really, which is expected for MSRP. That's not bad to be simple. The thermals, so the delta edge to junction was a little bit wide, if you recall on this one. We can actually leave these in. I'll show you why. So since the edge to junction temperature was a little wide, I do want to see how the mount looks and how the cold plate looks. Okay, very simple. Let's disconnect the cable. Okay. Generally for pulling these out, I like to try and get like if I can, a fingernail under the edge of it. Otherwise you use like a flathead or something. But I'm just gonna go over some of the basic stuff as I do this in case people are watching and haven't learned it before. Because we cut a lot of this stuff out of our teardown uploads since they need to be shorter. So you wanna be careful with these. We've seen people, and I've done it too a long time ago, rip not this, but the receptacle, we'll call it, the actual header, out of the PCB. You can solder it back in. It's not the end of the world, but it's not particularly fun, and if you've not had to reinstall one before, it's not great either. So, easy way to not do that is to pull at the connector, not at the wires. It can be really tempting to pull at the wires when they have a short cable run like this, because when you take it off, you're going to want to just pull up, which I definitely have done. I don't recommend it. But if you are going to just pull, like again, not recommending that, do make sure it's up and out and not to the side where you're going to kind of put some force on it that it really wasn't meant to take. So this is in fact a smaller die. That's expected. It's Navi 23, RDNA, it's an RDNA 2 23 die as opposed to 21. And I'm going to look at the, oh, interesting. It's actually direct contact. That explains a lot. So we've instantly, I think, diagnosed our edge to junction delta. Let me explain that too. Junction and edge temperature, pretty simple. So these are more or less, edge is fairly literal in most instances. So junction and edge. Junction on AMD, all it means when you see those two temperatures, junction is the hot spot. It is the hottest spot that a sensor is measuring. These pieces of silicon have sometimes hundreds of thermal sensors in them, and then they expose 2 to you, which is fine. They need a lot of them to determine the clock domains and how it's boosting. So they'll expose 2 to you. If you're lucky, sometimes you only get 1. And junction is the hottest spot. Edge is what I call it anyway. That's what they used to call it. Edge is sort of an average GPU temperature overall. it's going to be a lower number. But junction on AMD is how AMD will determine when it's going to start throttling back. So if you're at like 110, for example, it's going to throttle hard. And like Radeon 7 as an example, when it hit 110, it would throttle really hard. When it hit, I think it was 118 or 117, it would just shut down. So there's protections built on junction mostly more than edge. And so when we talk about a junction to edge delta, what we're talking about is the difference between the hottest spot, the T-junction in GPU-Z or whatever, and the coolest spot that is made available to us, which is edge or the average. And the reason there's such a wide gap here, where it's about 16 degrees in testing, if I remember our review properly, is it looks like just because of how the GPU contacts the cooler. So it's pretty simple, which is cool. You can see that this is direct contact, meaning they are not bringing it down to a single copper plate, which is contiguous and mostly flat. Instead, you've got flattened heat pipes, a should be level aluminum heatsink contacting the rest of it. And then you've got this part of the GPU die right here that is touching aluminum. And you've got the center touching a heat pipe. This is mostly touching a heat pipe. So you want as much heat pipe contact as possible in this kind of design. Having the edge stick out a little bit, it's not the end of the world. They were within spec. They're fine. We just wanted to see a little bit better. At this price, you deserve better than what you're getting with this. That's, I mean, the price is ridiculous for what, this is like a joke for $380. This is actually kind of offensive. The fin stack's very, very small. This cooler is easily under $20 cost. Easily under that mark. So anyway, so that's edge. That's going to be probably maybe not necessarily higher of the numbers because it's at the edge. I shouldn't have called it edge, but this is probably going to be the place we're seeing that delta appear between junction and edge. Phrase it that way. And it might not be the highest, despite having technically a worse interface it's in contact with, a piece of aluminum rather than a heat pipe with water in it, a little bit of water. But it's not in the center of the die. Depending on what silicon, what components are in that part of the silicon, it may not be doing as much work, whatever. And heat pipes, I think also pretty common knowledge, but these have about like almost literally one drop of liquid in them. And they've got an evaporator, a condenser, and so on one side you're evaporating, that's going to be here. It flows through most likely sintered powder. If we were to cut this open, that's probably what would be in there. Flows through sintered powder. It's going to start cooling down and get to the end here, hits the condenser, condenses, comes back via capillary action. This is all, I think I'll stop there with the heat pipe explanation because that's pretty basic stuff. But if you are not familiar with it, that's totally fine. We have a video on the channel you should search for called Heat Pipe Factory Tour. Look that up, or maybe Keegan can link it in the chat or something. But if you're interested, you can learn more there. Let's look at the next stuff. So I am going to clean off the card, the GPU, just so we can see it better. I'm going to check chat and super chats. Let me see if this is saving all the messages now. Okay, so Keegan, it is saving all the messages now, so you can probably stop screenshotting them if you want. Just some hiccup at the beginning. This is part of our test stream, please ignore setup. It used to be basically just Andrew on the camera and me here, and then if we had someone helping moderate, Keegan might be remote moderating, or Ryan, or one of our community moderators like Sam, who I think I saw in there earlier. But now we've got Keegan more of a producer setup to just kind of help us keep things going smoothly if we need information, or if there's something like I'm worried about super chat's not saving. It's great to be able to know that those are saving. So we're just going to clean this off the rest of the way. In chat, if you all could just do me a favor, the level of information so far, how are you feeling about it? I can do more, like as in I can do more basic stuff and walk it up. I can do less. Let me know how you feel about it. For example, the heat pipe stuff. Is that something everybody basically knows? Or you want me to keep talking about that kind of stuff and then I'll just sort of adjust, I guess, the content based on that. I'll check chat. It's about a 10-second delay, I think, so. Okay, so that's cleaned off. These dies don't say anything on them. There's nothing wrong with that. But NVIDIA prints text on theirs. It's actually really annoying for some overclockers who are really good, like Joe or Vince. But for most people, it doesn't matter. The reason it's annoying for them is because there's a bit of a height delta. Okay. Someone said, just don't stop talking. So I did just stop talking for a few seconds. I apologize. I've made a huge mistake by stopping talking for a few seconds. Or were you just caught on the power supply or something? Okay, let me read these. Okay, looks like people are pretty happy with this. Oh, all right, cool. The Irish Boxer said, I didn't know anything about a heat pipe until just now. Awesome. Glad to hear that, because I actually like talking about how the cooling systems works. I think that's probably my strongest point of knowledge. So that's always fun. Cool, okay. Please talk about the cost to manufacture. I can do a little bit of that. Those thermal pads, yeah, we need to talk about the thermal pads too. Okay, cool. All right, I'll do some more on the cooler for a little bit, and on the thermal pads we'll talk about too. Let me just check on one thing really quick. Okay, looks good. All right, cool. Okay, so let's do some discussion about. We'll go back to the heat pipes for a second, just because there was some interest in that. So I already explained evaporators and condensers. It's very simple, and these are technically, they do have water in them. Like I said, it's about one drop. So what they do is before they weld it back closed at one end, the other end stays closed, and then they have one that's open. They take a very long, narrow syringe. They insert about one drop of liquid into it, and then it gets zapped, and it welds it back shut. And that's all there is to it. For the rest of this, so when you do direct contact like this, it can be good, it can be bad, it depends on their tolerance. The challenges that a manufacturer runs into here is if I'm feeling actually for the smoothness of the surface, like the Corsair A500 when it first launched at least, you can end up with a problem where the sort of height difference between one material and the next is more pronounced than it should be, so you don't have a good contact patch to the IHS or the GPU or whatever it is. So that's the challenge they run into here. This feels by hand pretty smooth. There are tools that we have to test this. You can use lasers, you can use needles, and they measure depth normally in microns from a known 0 point. So you do depth sensing, and you can tell where the gaps are. Obviously, I think this is pretty clear, but the biggest gaps are going to be where the heat pipes meet, and you can't win them all when you do it this way. So that's fine, but that's where thermal paste comes in. That's where thermal paste has the most important job. Let's see. I just happened to look at chat, and I see Linus Tech Tips saying, "Back to you, Steve." Linus, can you get Intel to put someone named Linus on stage, or just like have them rename someone, so that they can say "Back to you, Linus," and then we can create an infinite loop with "Back to you, Steve," and "Back to you, Linus," hosted by Intel. It's like they've become the YouTubers. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know, Linus, you have a lot of pull in the industry. Personally, I think if you went to Intel and you said, "I need you to rename one of your employees to Linus, or else we're going to stop doing upgrades for our employees with Intel systems," I think you could make them do it. Just saying, something to think about. Or maybe they could have Linus Torvalds on. That would work too. I don't know if you would want to do that. Maybe if we told them it's for a good cause of getting them to say "Back to you, Linus," and "Thanks, Linus," then it would be worth it. Okay, good to see Linus in chat. Did he say anything else that I missed? Let's see. I'll just scroll up. Yes, he did. He said, "Hey guys, it's Steve from Gamers Nexus." Are they live or something? Is it WAN show time? All right. Oh, he is still here. Oh, okay. He said, "Or just bribe Torvalds." Yes, that you could probably, maybe like a gold You know the gold Xbox controller? Like, how can you make that a Linux thing? A gold penguin? Let's do like a gold Tux the Penguin. Send it over to him. You can make a video on it, everything. Everybody wins. I think it's great. Let's see, were there any other... there was someone asked about container prices. Steve, do you know if the shipping container prices increased and that is also affecting the GPU prices? That's affecting everything pricing. So, yeah, for sure. Container prices have gone up. We've experienced that too. And the thing with containers and ships is there's kind of a limited amount of them and a limited amount of space. And with the amount of products shipping globally of any type right now, I see a message from Linus. Let me freeze frame that. There's so much demand for them, the price is higher. So, just speaking from personal experience, you know, we've seen anywhere from 2x to 4x pricing for sort of our volume. I have definitely heard manufacturers talk about even higher increases in pricing proportionally to what they used to pay for shipping. So case manufacturers are struggling in this industry about the most right now because they have a large object dimensionally. It can be heavy, maybe not, but your dim weight's really high, and you're shipping a bunch of boxes that contain boxes that are meant to contain parts. So when you ship a box with a box, you start to lose some efficiency, especially if it's inside of another box on top of a boat. So yes, that is definitely affecting the pricing. This is why, along with tariffs and other things that are going on right now, is part of why you see a lot fewer $60 cases this year. Linus, the message he sent was about Torvalds when I said that they should make a gold Tux the Penguin for him. Linus said, I don't think he's the gold type. We can make something work. Oh yeah, Linus actually pointed out in chat too. Also, big marine worker shortage. That is definitely the case as well. Just a shortage of labor, I guess you say, or workforce. Maybe you do something else if he's not the gold type. I don't know. What about like anyone remember when Linus Torvalds, not Tech Tips, that is his last name, talked about NVIDIA and said something to NVIDIA. What if you made the other Linus a large Linus's middle finger with the word NVIDIA on it or something? Maybe that would work. Make that out of gold. You might like that one. Okay, let's get back to this. I'll do some super chats in a moment. Let's see. So we're talking, thermal pads probably worth talking about now. So this is just from me taking it apart, that's fine. By the way, we have replacements if we ever need to replace them for stuff like this. So the thermal pad height's actually different, which I'm curious about. Oh, it is actually intentional. Okay, so they've thought that through. That's more than I would expect sometimes. Thermal pad height's different because some of these are contacting over here, and this is, I don't know, maybe 0.5 millimeter lower than the plate. You could measure it if it mattered, but it doesn't. So these are going to be the thinner ones. The contact's okay. They're missing the outer edges. It does affect the temperature. We've tested that. Not a whole lot on this type of memory, but if you're on like G6X or something like that, you really want full contact. And anyway, that could be a little better, but it's not terrible. So that doesn't offend me as much as just the cooler itself, the heat pipes and the heatsink. So thermal pad contact's okay. Let's see, what else can we talk about on the board? Oh, right, we haven't taken this off yet. That's going to be the heatsink for the VRM. I'll check chat in a second again. I guess, Keegan, if Linus throws anything else out there that I should read, go ahead and just put it on a notepad or something. Okay, so pretty simple stuff. This is very standard. It's an aluminum heat spreader. It's just got some fins, and it's on top of the MOSFETs. Very basic. No direct contact to the inductors. Capacitors, you almost never have direct contact to, so that's fine. Inductors can take a lot of heat. This is literally just a coil of copper inside of a shell. So they can take a lot more heat than some of the other stuff. The MOSFETs do need passive cooling at least. And in this case, it's basically active because the air is coming down in theory if they haven't stuffed it up. Yes, okay. So they're going to get a little bit of airflow down from the fan right above it. And I mean, it's, you know, not the best solution because it's not contacting the greater heatsink, but it's a cheap way to do it, and that was their goal. So for whatever that's worth, they've accomplished it. International rectifier 35217 for the controller over here. And there's no dual BIOS, however, and this is just kind of interesting, if you don't know it, you can normally see when a board is is prepared for other components. So in this case, it could take a dual V BIOS switch, which actually, I think probably most people know what this looks like, but it just looks like this right here. So it could fit one of those. In fact, you could see it's actually not the same PCB. This one's taller, but you can see it's the same type of cutout, and that's where that would go if they wanted to do one. They've got a spot. They didn't solder it on. They're keeping costs lower. Got another header over here that could potentially be used for RGB or something, fan header or something like that. Sometimes you see debug pads left over on cards. But that's going to be about it for the assembly here. It's a very basic card. There's not a lot going on. The cooler is pretty simple. Let's take one fan out. Is one of these going to be easier? Not really. Let's take one fan out and just get the SKU, the model, in case any of you end up needing to replace it in the future. Help. Oh, it's pulling all of the heat out of my body. I'm going to die. It's sinking. It's sinking all the heat away. Okay. That's how it works. Just if you didn't know. Okay. Let's get that fan off. These are always hit and miss. Yeah, I should go get it. There's a really cool fan assembly I like a lot. Manufacturers don't use it too much because of cost. I'm assuming there might be another problem that I don't know about, but cost is one of them. And it's a pin-to-pad setup. We'll show you one of those in a second. So there's the fan. It's made by First D. And the, let's see, 12 volts, 0.35 amps. Model number's right there on the screen. If you end up needing one, we'll get a shot of that. And if it dies, then you'll know the replacement model to buy from eBay or whatever. It's from March, actually, this year. They don't really mark the dates. Not super interesting, but I like to check it just to see how backed up manufacturing is. Let me make a request really quick. Patrick, can you find me, I think it's an RX 580 XFX, like Ghost or something, and it has a fan that's pinned to pad that you can just pull out.
Okay.
It's got like semi-transparent fan blades.
Okay.
So Patrick's gonna grab the fan style that I like, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, let me do some super chats here. Damien Yoss in chat said this whole card looks cheap. Yep, sure is. Not for you, but it is for somebody. That is definitely correct. Let me look through the super chats. Oh, Linus said, something. Let me just get the context on the screen so it makes sense. Linus said, the only D you'll ever need. First D. Come here to get your Ds. It's like they're prepared for YouTube comments. They're first. All right. Let's see. Oh, I had 2 moons. Sent 500 yen, said coupon code 3080 Thai when? Perhaps in the future. That's not a bad one either. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. So this we'll talk about in a moment. That's not going to work. That's 580. Let me do a couple more super chats so we get there. Someone says initial D-drift in fan. Yeah. I mean, if they named it, it is synonymous, I guess. Initial, first, they're most of the way there. It's maybe like just outside of litigation territory, but still conveys Peter said $2. Is there a GPU BIOS UEFI and should I update it? So there is, if you're asking in general, there is a GPU BIOS. Every card has it. It's typically called VBIOS, as in video BIOS. And generally, our advice would be not to update it unless you have a specific reason you want to. So, for example, if you have a higher end card, there's a good chance that out on a forum somewhere, someone has found a VBIOS that has, by which I mean created internally and leaked without NVIDIA's permission, found a VBIOS that has a higher power target. With AMD, you can use more power tool. You can get it from Igor's lab. You don't need to go that route, but it makes it a little easier. So maybe you want to update your BIOS to support a higher power target so you do more overclocking. You get into territory where it might be too much power for what the cooler was designed for, but if you're hooking it up to water or something, it doesn't matter. You do still have to be careful, though, about the amount of power you push through the board. So maybe that's the reason you update it. The 5600 XTs, those launched with a lower clock and later brought it up. And that would be another reason to update VBIOS. So hopefully that answers that question. Generally, no, if you don't have a specific reason. Let me get through a couple more of these. There's a bunch of people talking about Initial D now. It drifts away from good pricing. Yeah, that's also fair. I like it when people do my job for me in chat. Okay. You need to update it for BIR. Yeah, that's a good point too. Okay, so did I miss any of these super chats? Got those. Okay, Dusk Pierce said, "Hey Steve, you all did a good job on the PSU piece. I watched it all. Thank you." Says, question, do you think the Steam Deck will actually help Linux gaming long term? That is a great question. I'm a little skeptical. The only reason I'm skeptical, I think it's possible, first of all. The only reason I'm hesitant to say yes is because Valve has sort of done this before. The Steam Deck is genuinely very interesting. They know there's a market because they saw Nintendo do very well with it. So, sure, definitely possible. But Valve did try to do the Steam boxes a long time ago, and they didn't, I think is the technical term. They did not do that. So, I don't know. We said back then that it had a lot of potential to make Linux more mainstream, and it did, but it would in fact have to ship. The Steam Deck is going to ship at this point. It's a real thing, and they are making it. So it will increase market share depending on how it's calculated because it's on more devices. Does it increase it enough to move the Linux numbers? I don't know. But the Steam hardware survey did show that Linux as an OS has increased in market share month over month, even though the Steam Deck's not out yet. So it's still moving in the right direction, if that is in fact the direction you think is right. Linus Tech Tips says, Steamy D. Linus, you're getting a little frisky. I can tell Nick Light isn't there to manage you right now. Linus is flying off the handle with crazy things like Steamy D. Hopefully that answers the Steam Deck. I think it has potential, yes. I'm just a little hesitant to commit to that because Windows has such a stranglehold on everything, and Valve is a big company, but I don't know. There's a lot of ways they can mess it up, so we'll see. A lot of ways they can do it well, too. Derek Meyer said, longtime Patreon supporter. This is funny. If Linus is still in chat, then he's going to feel vindicated for his roast comments he made. Derek said, longtime supporter, I'll be honest and say I use your videos to go to sleep, which is fine. I'm fine with that as long as it's running, whatever. And now Linus and James will be vindicated in their comments they made several years ago. Trenton Robinson says, EVGA with a big SKU, 600 BQ, 80 plus bronze, 600 watt, semi-modular FDB fan, 3-year, is this just an ad? 3-year warranty, power supply. Oh, there's a question. Vertical bar, grep. Should I be worried about the quality of this PSU? I don't know. We haven't tested it explicitly yet. That one should definitely have reviews out there. Check out, let me give you something. I'll give you an answer you can work with, and everyone can work with. Check out Eris, and he runs reviews on hardware busters. He's been doing power supplies a long time. His YouTube presence is pretty new, but he knows what he's doing. maybe this one's been reviewed on Johnny Guru. I think their site's down still, but if you can find an archive on Google cached or something, check that out. We'll work our way through the power supplies. Probably do a roundup of low-end stuff sometime in the future. Okay, we do like 4 or 5 more of these, and then we'll get back to disassembly. Thomas Rostad says, just wanted to say hi. Oh, I got yours earlier. Hi. RF Merrill said, so are power supplies coming pre-damaged from the testing? Is this referring, oh, this must be referring to Gigabyte. Oh, I see what you mean, like, because they test them off the line. That's possible, yeah. That's actually very interesting. That's an interesting point. I think Patrick Stone might have talked about that when we were writing the piece. But they could. I don't know that they are. So I don't know what Gigabyte does, but I know HEC, which is a supplier factory that at this point I can say we toured. I know that they test 100% of the power supplies that come off the line, and that includes a variety of testing, such as the OVP. I'm being told that people like the gold cat. Yes, there's a gold cat back there. That was a gift to us from our Chinese teacher, Andrew and I take class with. So yeah, I think it's possible they come pre-damaged, but it's also possible the design is just bad. Okay, next one. I can't read your name. Sorry, it's in characters I can't read. Says, I was trying to ignore this stream with JStream, but it's over now, and now I can't. Well, it says test stream, please ignore. So, you know, it's you can't win them all. It's at least you're here and not on JStream. I'm just kidding. I like Jay. Cole Gotcher says, pretty sure the real use of the exploding power supplies is to throw them like hand grenades. Yeah, I felt uncomfortable standing next to them when they were on the bench. Rufusa, 2568 of Steve's best friends. Me? Question mark. Yes. Marty Stein said, I have a Gigabyte 3090 eGPU external. I'm pretty sure the PSU died. Power went down, then up. Now no power. Still got to see if the card works. Yeah, that would be unfortunate. So I would test with a different power supply if you think it died. Like, don't keep pushing it. See if it'll come back on, just in case it sends some power back the way it shouldn't. And test with something that's probably known good if you can get it. Maybe take it to a technician if you don't have access to one and ask them, hey, can you just hook up a power supply from the shop that you know is good? But yeah, that's definitely protect that 3090. Wishbone, good to see you back, Wishbone, says, all jokes aside, can we really get a Beetle Adventure Racing, Beetle Adventure Racing to work on a 6900 XT or a 3090 Kingpin? So Wishbone is the one who sent this in. Allow me to extract it safely. Wishbone has been in our stream chats for years at this point. Like, there's a good amount of names that I know and recognize from years of seeing people in chat, and Wishbone is definitely one of the earliest ones. And I very quickly remembered who Wishbone was probably the second time I saw a message, because it was always about Beetle Adventure Racing. And I thought that was maybe a game, like a meme game about beetles that you drive around a track. And it is, but it's not the bugs. Well, I guess it is. But it's not the bugs I thought it was. So this is from Wishbone, previously sent it out to us. And it is for Beetle Adventure Racing. I had never thought to actually Google it. I'm going to set this down here so we can safely put it back later. I never thought to actually Google it and see what the game was. That's what it was. I didn't answer the question, I guess. I don't have plans currently to test Beetle Adventure Racing. I don't know how hard that would be to test. Linus says, I've never been here. Okay. Nori SS says, let's see. Gigabyte released a press release about the power supplies. I'll look at that for a video. I think it's better if I do a video on that rather than in the stream. They say their crap is fine. Nori's words, not mine. However, I agree with them. Not the fine part, but the crap part. And says, P.S. Hi, Patrick, question mark. How's the new cat doing? Calico for the win. I think everything's good there. And yes, Calico for the win. Dean Bernie, so I'm going to do this last one. It says, hey Steve, my super chat disappeared earlier, I guess. My question was, got a 5600X 3060 Ti with old RAM, 16 gigabytes, 3000 megahertz. For gaming and streaming, do I double it or do I buy fast RAM, new RAM? Always enjoy your content from South Africa. Well, thank you for watching and for sending your question. So let's see. 5600X is good. 3060 Ti is fine. 16 gigabytes, 3000. So the way I would answer this, I can't like explicitly answer this for you because I don't know how you use the computer, but I'm going to give you some scenarios. So I would upgrade, if you're talking about faster versus double the capacity, I would increase the capacity if you are specifically doing things that use the capacity. So if you're working with 3D modeling or CAD drawings where you start soaking a lot of system RAM, Premiere certainly can use a lot of RAM if you're doing the right type of video. DaVinci Resolve can use it. Photoshop can use it. Depends on the workload. But if you're working with larger file sizes, larger images, then I would increase the capacity. Don't worry as much about the speed because it's the capacity that'll dictate the program crashing or not if you're exceeding the system memory. And if you're not using those things, you're just gaming, 16 gigabytes is plenty. And faster or tighter latency will do more for you. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to pause here on the super chats. We'll get back to them. Let me come over here, though, and do some of what the stream set out to do. So I talked about this video card a little while ago, and we said we were talking about fans. And specifically, I was talking about the initial, the first D fan that is, I mean, standard. I don't really have a big problem with it or anything. But we were talking about that, and I said there's one particular type I like. I think, is there one screw in here, or do they just pull? Oh no, these are awesome. So there must have been like a manufacturing issue with these, or maybe they failed more than they should have, or some tolerance issue, because they really didn't stick around that I'm aware of. And the reason they're so cool, assuming they work properly, I don't know why they disappeared, is because it's got two clips right here, and you pull on them, bam, that's it. And so the reason that's cool, not that this is that much easier than taking 2 or 3 screws out, the reason I like this is because the fan is the most common point of failure on a video card. It's all these companies, for the most part, will tell you that RMA, the highest RMA volume is for a fan that died. It's probably because a user let it get stuffed up with dust or something, and that's fine, that's normal. Most of these companies would be happy to send you a fan. But the problem is sending a fan out to a user when it's like this one, it starts to require disassembling the whole card, and a lot of manufacturers are afraid of giving the user that much work to do, because if they don't know what they're doing, you could end up with a poor reassembly and more damage than initially. So they'll ask you to send it out to RMA hell and then send it back to you, and you'll be lucky if you get it in a few weeks. So this one, I thought it was brilliant. I'll check chat in a second, but yeah, Sapphire did something similar. I saw that question. I'll answer that. I thought it was brilliant, and it's just pin to pad contact. So I like that a lot. You can see the pins right there and the pads right there, and that's all there is to it. Really good for user service. Couple downsides. One of them, this might be kind of, hey, look who made it. It's First D. They're back. So it might be, I haven't checked. You could look this up like on eBay if you wanted to, but I don't know how hard it is to find a replacement for this because it's a little bit custom. But maybe that's a downside. As for the person asking, hey, did Sapphire do that? They did. Sapphire did it a little differently. So Sapphire got rid of this mechanism here. Mechanism is maybe a bit generous, but 2 plastic clips. And instead they have one on one side, and then they have a screw on the other side. So they can still tell a user, okay, your fan died, no problem. We're going to mail you a fan, and then once you get it, here's the instructions. They'll tell you, remove the screw over here, pull the fan up with the clip, put it back in. So it's still helpful the way Sapphire does it. Maybe there's a benefit to theirs, more secure perhaps. But ultimately, you're getting rid of the cable, and if the cable's routed through a heatsink and then down to the PCB, that's the problem. Now, pin to pad can be problematic with guaranteeing or keeping contact, especially with something that vibrates because by nature it spins. So maybe that was the reason they got rid of it, if they were spinning out of place or something over time, I don't know. But Okay. Linus just gonna get more and more ridiculous until he says things I can't say. No, to answer Linus, there's a user in chat named, I believe, Linus Tech Tips. It's a weird name. Anyway, said, is there a sloppy D around? I don't know that fan manufacturer. I'm not aware of it, but I don't know all the fan manufacturers. I need a magnet. We're gonna grab a magnet, and this is just how I like to keep screws kind of organized. This is very simple to reassemble, so I don't need to worry about keeping track of where they go. So I like to keep magnets around, and I keep them with the card. Yeah, this fan. Keep them with the card so that I can just reassemble it easily later. Let's move this into the needs to be reassembled graveyard. Okay. All right, so we're going to take this one apart now. This is the Red Devil. As a reminder, we are working on our mod mat. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to grab one. I'm going to shout out a couple of those orders, actually. And the code, last day for that, is send help. So you can get 10% off on the store last day for that one. That was to help us with the Gigabyte power supply cost offset. Thank you again to those of you helping with that. And you get something cool in return, like the mod mats, which are available on back order. I'll show a couple of the other things too. You can grab one of our pint glasses with the bar runners. These are super cool. This is very unique and custom. So you can grab one of the combo with the pint glass and the bar runner. It's just a spill guard. It looks really good on the surfaces. We've got like CPU pins here. So these small CPU pins, memory slots, memory slots, and then PCIe slots over here. These are not functional, so don't expect the video card to turn on if you socket it, but it is water resistant, which is more can be said for video cards. So anyway, that's all in the store. And we also have mouse mats and mouse pads over there, like the red and black one I've been using during the stream over on my streaming setup, which is right there. This is fairly new still. That was the first like fully committed red and black we did. And red underside, very custom red stitching. All right, let's get into the teardown of this thing. And so once again, there's a warranty void. If removed sticker, it'd be a shame if the FTC found out about that, since they're enforcing it now. Let's track these up here instead. Pretty simple. So 4 screws for the retention of the cooler to the card. Standard stuff. Dual V BIOS. You can see it's got OC and silent. What's the stock one? They set it to OC by default. Not always, but most of the time, this is just a toggle of how much power is allowed to go into the card and the fan curve. So if you see this, and you're like, which one should I use? Personally, I would generally leave it default, whatever it was, and roll with that. But, and I'll say this too, PowerColor in the past has shipped us cards that they were the same. Like I would test it. I would spend 4 hours testing them, and I'd get to the end of it, and I would email PowerColor and say, hey, are these supposed to be the same, or is there something wrong? And they would say, oops, and then fix it. So they should be different, but they're not always. Depends on if anyone caught it. And it's just a power budget limit difference. So how much power the GPU core is allowed to draw will go down normally with silent, and that allows them to bring down the fan curve. Sometimes they still push the same amount of power, they just let it run hotter instead. I do prefer the reduced power consumption approach because that's something that a user is less likely able to do on their own easily anyway. And it's an actual service that the manufacturer can provide, saying, hey, here's this VBIOS that lets you do whatever. Let's say 300 watts. Here's another one. It does 260, which is a huge difference. And you'll lose some performance, but it'll be quieter and cooler. So that is normally what they try to do. So these 2 screws are going into the... sorry, let me move this. Not a base plate. There's actually not a base plate on this one. They're going into the base of the heatsink, the fin stack. So you see that there. And we've got an 8 and a 6 pin. Actually, I'm going to walk around this card before we disassemble it. Backplate is in fact metal, like the advertising said. And like the advertising says, it comes with a cooler. Wow, cool. There's an RGB LED here. They've got some venting here. I think this is honestly mostly for design, but it's not a bad idea because it lets some of the heat get out from being trapped under the backplate. Is there a thermal pad down there? That would be nice. Nope, can't do those. This card's probably only $400 and something, and thermal pads are like at least a few pennies. So anyway, they can't afford those, so there's not any thermal pads on the backside. And that means, unfortunately, these become more necessary because otherwise the plate just starts to act as an insulator. At least it's not plastic though. So that's the plate. Let's look at the rest. Fin stack, we talked about this earlier. Shroud doesn't cover it, that's a good thing. There's a couple of Phillips 0-sized screws on the top. Might be PH1, looks like PH0. And then the fan connectors, right? Actually, that might be RGB. We'll look at that. I'm pretty sure that's actually an RGB connector right there for these. Yeah, and then a fan connector, looks like it might be more over on this side. We'll look at that once we disassemble it. There it is. There's your fan connector right there. And pins coming through the back. Now, normally they'll put some plastic as an insulative barrier between the backplate and the pins, but if it's anodized, then they'll be okay. I'm talking about a direct short if they were to contact. So that's the card. Pretty basic. Fins are top to bottom. Let's finish taking it apart. So those will go up there. I'm going to take some chats in a second. That is, I think this is pretty clear, but one of the things that, oh, nice. One of the things that took me more time than it should have to figure out many years ago was what these really mean. So normally when I'm looking at a device that's complicated, and this isn't, but when I'm looking at a complicated one, I look for these, because these are just going to be the receptacle basically for the thread. I don't know the technical term. On the opposite side of the screw. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious, you know, when you see it, but I don't know why when I first started taking video cards apart like 6 years ago or something, it became very helpful for me when I was thinking through this assembly of, oh, there's going to be a screw on the other side of this. I need to keep that in mind. Some things you learn a little slower than others, but it was very useful to learn. Simple enough. So that pulls up. The thermal paste broke contact as it's supposed to. And now we are hung up on all this RGB crap. I hope I don't have to take that apart, but let's see. Yep, I think I'm going to. Maybe. I'm trying to keep an eye on what's, I'm sorry I can't show you, I'm trying to see what's going on inside so I don't like rip a connector out of the board or something. So do I take the lazy approach or not? We're gonna go with yes, because I think I know what I'm doing, which is always dangerous. And there goes the RGB cable, safely disconnected. So now I can show you what's going on. This is what I just saw all this going on, and I was like, uh-oh, what's all that crap? This is a hell of a way to do things. I think I'm gonna just disconnect these at the joint. Yeah, let's do that. God, this is really hard to work with. Okay, that's disconnected safely. And now it's just the fan header itself. So that was all RGB. There's the fan header. Okay, we're safely disconnected. No video cards were hurt. That's good. Riv nut, is that the technical phrase? If it is, that's actually really useful to know. Let me look that up. Either someone's trolling me or it's actually what it's called. Hey, that looks right. Rivet nut. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Thank you. I like it when I can learn stuff like the actual proper names for things that I'm working on. Know how they work. Sometimes don't know what they're called. Okay, I'm just looking at the super chats. I'm going to go through some of those. I do see a message from Jared's Tech. Jared's Tech just come through. 100 Australian, thank you. Said help. I accidentally this message instead of ignoring stream. I'm trying to understand the verb in this sentence. Help. I accidentally this message. You know, it is a problem sometimes, especially as we get older. You accidentally a message, and fortunately there are fixes out there for you if you accidentally a message. There are things that someone can do for you. Okay, I think that's about the best I can do with that one. Let's do a couple store shout outs really quick. Cameron from Virginia picked up a bar runner and cobalt blue beer glass. That's what we've got right here. Thank you, Cameron, for picking that up. And I think used the code. Yes, used code SENDHELP for 10% off. Thanks, Cameron. Got one I'll shout out from Kyle, not Bitwit. Kyle from Oregon bought a wireframe mouse mat. Thank you, Kyle. I'm just going to click on a few of the random ones here. Richard from Illinois picked up a Volt anti-static mod mat. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Helps a lot with these. And then we've got. I'm gonna do my best with this. The pronunciation. I mean, is there a pronunciation guide? Is this how you say? I hope this is how you say it. I'm doing my best here, genuinely. Eusebiao, I think that's how you say it, from Google. Eusebiao from California picked up a PC shortage t-shirt. That's this one. Picked up the tri-blend one, actually, that I'm wearing, but not literally the one I'm wearing. That would be gross and weird. But they did buy a tri-blend t-shirt. Thank you. Let's do one more here. Philip from California also picked up the Explosion and Repair logo poster and a video card components poster. Thanks for picking those up. Okay, let's look at what's the chat saying. Chat says I purposely this video. Yes, 10% till midnight Eastern time for the discount code. I think 11:59. I think is when it expires. Where's Ignore Gain at? Okay, we've gotten a new squad. It's not just the notification squad, now it's the ignore squad. Does it still count as ignoring if there's a squad for it? I don't know. I am actively ignoring this stream from Zach R0. I appreciate that. I appreciate the effort that it's not just passively ignoring it. Okay, cool. Let's do, someone said you should do a collab on making of a PC case. I don't know if that's in reference to Linus or someone else in chat, but we have a whole series on factory tours. They're my favorite things we've filmed are factory tours. It's super cool. You can check out the series if you're curious about seeing how PC cases are made. Okay, let's jump over to this a little bit, and then we'll do all the super chats and probably start wrapping up after that. So the design for this thing, and just if you haven't seen our streams before because it's been a while, I try to interact a lot with chat, with super chats, with the purchases, and then still do the content. It's a tough balance, but we try to jump around a lot, so hopefully the flow feels okay. All right, I enjoy interacting with the chat. It's a lot different than uploads where you upload it and then that's kind of it. So this is always fun. So this one does in fact have a flat cold plate. You can see the difference in the direct heat pipe contact approach and this one. Again, one's not necessarily better. It does depend on how they're used. It's nice to call one thing just simply better than the other, but it's not always the case. This is typically going to give you a little more of sort of a disparate surface. So there are definitely advantages to this. This also, given that it has a few more screws involved that go directly into the heatsink, it's a heavier heatsink, so it needs them because it needs the assistance on holding all that weight. But as much as I complain about having too many screws for some devices, there is an upside sometimes. There's diminishing returns too, but the upside is that if we were to pressure test this, I don't know that I will with this, depends how much, if I think it'd be interesting, but you can see pressure tests with our cooler reviews. If we were to pressure test this, then generally you will see more even contacts. Not always the case. Pressure testing doesn't show the flatness of the surface. It instead shows the pressure distribution of the chemical paper as it applies to the silicon and the heat spreader, or the heat sink cold plate. So in this instance, you've got a few more screws. It should have a flatter contact patch than the other. I would have tests to confirm, and we don't have the heat pipe gaps running through that you need to rely on thermal paste for. So there's some upsides, some downsides too. This is going to be nickel plated copper. So this color is normally pretty easy to identify. It's almost always going to be copper for a cold plate, especially if it looks like this. Whereas this one, this is if you're used to working on this stuff, it's fairly obviously aluminum and then copper in the center. So it's not nickel plated aluminum or copper on that one. Heat pipes. I think these are 6 mils. I'll measure them for you. But I think that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 mils going right through the middle. Let's go back to some of the basic information. Just if you don't know, maybe some people here can learn something new. So with heat pipes, there's really one main goal. Manufacturers will do their best to advertise the amount of heat pipes they have or the size of the heat pipes they have. And there's some truth to advantages for both of those. But like most things marketing related, it is marketing. And the way they decide which one to advertise, do we advertise that we have a 10 mil heat pipe or that we have X many heat pipes? The way they decide is simply by which number is larger. And that's the one that gets marketed. So, or what their competitors are doing if they think they can say they have more. But it doesn't mean that it's better just because it has more, as with most things. And in this case, really what you're looking for with a heat pipe is where does it contact? And sure, you could load the whole cold plate with heat pipes if you want, run it all through. It'd probably improve a little bit, although you need some contact to the fins directly somewhere, but it'd probably improve a little bit. But you're at diminishing returns. And so all they're trying to do is get as high a percentage of each heat pipe contacting the GPU die as possible while having at least a couple that are 100% in contact. You can flatten the heat pipes to give them a wider contact patch. So you can maybe flatten these and do like an 8 mil or a 10 mil, and you only need like 2 that go through it. But when they're flatter, they are less efficient at cooling. This is something we've talked with the heat pipe factories about. You can see it in our heat pipe factory tour, actually. So they lose some efficiency, but they gain some contact patch. So flat heat pipes are fantastic for small devices, like say a backplate of a video card on to the GPU side or a laptop. But they're not so great where you have the real estate to do a fully formed heat pipe where you can get more internal surface area in contact with that liquid as it evaporates here and condenses wherever the end is. In this instance, the end's going to be over here. So that's your condenser, your evaporator's over here. It's just where's the heat going, basically. And most of the heat, I guess we'll do this. I didn't talk about this earlier, but the reason heat pipes are typically regarded as good is because you're shedding a lot of that heat in the phase change process. So you're taking heat, you're sending it into something that has a little bit of liquid in it, and you're changing that from a liquid to a gas. So you lose a lot of that, shed a lot of that heat in the process, move it over to the other end, and as it moves over to the other end, it's going through sintered grooves. It might be going through sintered powder, I should say. It might be going through grooves as well. Sometimes there's a mesh weave in there, pretty uncommon these days. And the mesh weave is it's literally like a weave of copper that's like that, woven over itself. Not as common. Sintered's the most common. So moves to the other end, fans obviously blow through it, and it cools it down, water goes back. So that's why they're regarded as good. Let's get a measurement on this. I think it's going to be 6 mil. I don't think it's 4. So that's going to be a 6 millimeter heat pipe right there. So pretty standard. 6 and 8 are the most common. And just again, larger is not better on this. So if you see a box, if you're like, I think I like both of these devices, they're priced about the same. How do I tell which one I want? This one has 6 mil heat pipes, this one has 8. That's not how you tell. You can look at basically anything else. It's going to give you more info. I can't, I've tested a lot of GPU coolers. I can't look at a box if they're very similar and tell by the box description which one's better. You can tell if you pull it out and look at it maybe, but there's a lot of info you really don't know until you take it apart. So honestly, you'd be better off looking at other features that might be more useful to you instead. Like, for example, RGB, which as we discussed earlier is a rotational gravity belt. That sounds pretty good. I've heard good things about gravity, so I think it probably helps GPUs. I'm not pretty sure. All right, what else is on here? So thermal pads. These are thin pads. They look like about 0.5 mil. They might have been 1 mil before they were compressed. And actually that's about a 1 mil pad on those. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 memory modules. They flank the GPU, and pretty basic, it contacts the cold plate. This is good. They don't always do that. Sometimes they contact a separate plate that's just aluminum. So they're sharing a cold plate, which does mean that the GPU is going to appear a little bit higher in temperature because you're sharing this surface to sync everything, as opposed to doing a, where'd that thing go? Well, wherever it was, I don't know where I put it. Oh, there it is. As opposed to doing something like this, except larger, but for memory. So some companies will do like a separate plate on the memory, like EVGA does with the KP coolers, for example, with copper. And depending on where it goes, you might not make the GPU look hotter because they're all going to the same place. Okay, let's see some of the questions. What's Jess saying? Gravity keeps you grounded. Okay, all right. That one's pretty good. I'll read that. Sean in chat says, gravity, also known as Linus's nemesis, because of the dropping stuff. Get it? It's pretty good, though. Oh, there's another one. Fractured life. Gravity attracts stuff. Linus throws it. So we've turned it into an active process now, not a passive one or an accidental one. Let's see. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to this. It might be in our video. This is from Kenneth Nilsson in chat. Says, what degrees Celsius temperature does heat pipe fluid evaporate? My card goes to 80 degrees Celsius. So I can comment on this part. The GPU core being 80C doesn't really reflect what temperature the liquid is inside of the heat pipe. In that regard, they are somewhat isolated systems, and we don't have a way to measure easily the temperature of the liquid in the heat pipe. I'm not sure what it evaporates at. It is functionally, well, not functionally, it is vacuum sealed. It evaporates lower than the boiling point, and that's by design. But I can't, I have an idea for what it is, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to produce misinformation. I just want to quote it. But it's lower than boiling point. I don't remember the specific number. I think it might be in our How Heat Pipes Work video or our How Heat Pipes Are Made video. Not 100C though. That would be too high. It wouldn't be useful. Wadoku quoted me and said, I heard good things about gravity, quote, Steve 2021. Yep, that's the kind of content you get here. Couple things about the board and the cooler. We talked about the cooler actually already. So these MOSFETs are in direct contact. The plate that goes to the heatsink, pretty basic stuff. Nothing special or bad there. We've got, is that RGB? I don't know if that's debug or RGB. I need to look at the marketing. Header over here. I think that's RGB. That might be an addressable. Is that that's got the pinout of an addressable RGB header right there on the mod mat is what I'm looking at. Those pinouts help a lot. We've got a blank spot. We've got a shunt resistor. That's not exciting. I mean, cable for RGB LEDs. This was for RGB LEDs. This was actually really annoyingly wired. That could have been done a lot, but there's so much plastic here. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to diffuse these. These are the boards, right? PCBs. Those have LEDs on the other side of them. They project down. It diffuses across the plastic surface. It's supposed to look cool. I don't know. I don't really. It's not what I do, but and so you've got these soldered to each other. That doesn't come off. How's the board secured? Is it glue? Sort of. The board is secured. Oh, that's not even a screw, man. Come on, guys. That's unfortunate. So the board's secured with maybe like a metal spike in there or something. It's not a screw. There's no head for that. And then glue on top of it. So there is hot glue. We found it. It's on the LED PCBs. Connecting wire, this wire also soldered in, comes over, connects to this, and then talks to, I assume, the LEDs on the back. Let's go ahead and take that apart as well. I like this. Normally I wouldn't mention this, but since the whole stream idea was that it's a test stream, I like this producer style setup we have right now. So Keegan's in the same room behind Andrew, and he's got a monitor facing me, and then he's got a preview of the monitor facing him. And it's nice to be able to look over there and see if the stream's working, and because we've had problems with that, and then two, if there's anything I need to know. So Linus giving Keegan work today by typing things in the chat, and then Keegan putting it on a notepad with size 32 font for me to see from over here. It's actually pretty cool. Maybe we'll do like a video of the setup once we're happy with it, and especially at the new place. I have a lot of plans for increasing the efficiency of the new place here. All right, we're almost done here, and then I'm just gonna go through the super chats. It looks like things are working though, so this is where the card stops working and the stream goes down, the audio breaks, and the batteries die. Hey, you got some shielding over here. Don't always get that. Could be RF or heat. Looks like heat shielding to me, but I'm not an expert in RF. Okay, so we do have one more of these. I'll try and pull it out of the connector if I can. Yep, okay, cool. Let's do this first. Not much to look at here. So there's your connector for the LEDs, backside of the inductors, the MOSFETs, and caps. If you don't know, inductor and choke, it's the same thing. Just different words people use. Not going to talk about the VRM. And then there's your LED diffusion. You know, they've got metal covering it so they can make the shape. They have, fortunately, well, they've stopped doing PowerColor things with shapes that they were using incorrectly, so that's good. And then we've got rubber bumpers here and no thermal pads on the backplate. You know, I don't think that would bother me as much, but don't they make claims about like the backplate on here and heat? Do they? Let's see. Oh, come on, guys. God, this is so stupid. This is like, so if you're gonna make a card where you have a metal backplate and no thermal pads, it annoys me a little bit, but it's not, it's kind of whatever. A lot of people do that, so don't really care as much as I used to. What bothers me, if you zoom in on where it says backplate up here, Andrew, it says the metal backplate strengthens the card, okay, sure, and offers better heat dissipation. I have a question for you, PowerColor. It's a pretty complex question. The question is, how? How does it do that? How does the heat get into the metal backplate that offers better heat dissipation? Here's the answer. It doesn't go through rubber very well, so it's not going through there. There's no contact of this with the PCB, obviously, because that would cause a direct short. So where's the thermal pads? It's, you know, it's when we go from waste of material for looks, that's one thing. That's fine. I can live with that. But when you go from that to just blatantly lying in the marketing and saying it helps with heat dissipation, come on, like, get real. PowerColor knows better than that. I guess we'll, they emailed me before the reviews went up and they said, hey, do you have any feedback? There it is. There's my feedback. Stop lying. Is that so hard? Come on. It's so pointless. Screws, yeah, all right, sure. Yeah, someone's saying, can they use copper screws? I mean, not a great way to do it, but, okay. Anyway, so Sam in chat, our community moderator, So they forgot to put magic in their marketing for the backplate. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Someone pointed this out too, and I agree with this. Dallin in chat says, don't claim it's for better performance when there's no thermal pads, just claim it looks cool. That's totally fine. If they said, we put a backplate on it, it looks cool, it helps with structural integrity, sure, all right, that's fine. But then they're like, also, it sprays unicorns out the backside, and it has a rotational gravity belt. Well, actually it does. I think that's what that is. That's the RGB. But it doesn't spray unicorns. So, copper screws. I like this comment too. Jason Baumgartner here in chat brings up a very good point. Says that 110 degrees Celsius isn't that hot. And then says compared to the sun. I think, let's see, temperature of the sun. (5,505 degrees Celsius. That's pretty close to like an FX Bulldozer CPU. Not that far off. Okay. All right, let me read through all the super chats. I think we're good on the disassembly. You know, just to, like, I don't know. The cards, I said it in the review, but it's hard to get excited about cards at these prices right now with this level of performance, with this stagnation. That's what it is. It's like $1 for 1 more percent. Who cares? You get that within a generation. Certainly 2 years later, it should be better than that. But then seeing like the blatant lie marketing, that's the part that bothers me. So even if it doesn't like affect how the GPU performs, because fortunately that's not a part that PowerColor touched, so it should be fine. Let's read these. So we have a good amount of super chats to go through, and we're done with the disassembly at this point. But we have that's the edge temperature of the sun. What's the junction temperature of the sun? Is the edge to junction high? Maybe we can improve the contact of the sun to space. I don't know. The Mage says, what happened to the motherboard maker A-Bit? A-Bit? They were popular when I first got into computers. I left for a while, came back, they were gone. I've actually never heard of that brand. Patrick Stone probably has. What did they make? Defunct, 2008. That would explain it. I was building computers then, but if they were on their way out, I might not have seen anything from them. So, founded 1989. Wow. Well, I don't know. I learned something new, though. I never heard of them before. I wish I could answer your question, but it does look like Wikipedia said it could. Trevor Monday, did you read my chat? I guess so. I don't know. Is there another one? If it's a super chat, then I'll get to it. If it was a normal chat and I read this one after it, then no. Sorry. Okay. Mike Sherry said, oh, this was earlier. You're doing fine. Thank you. Appreciate it. Robert Mall said, test super chat, please ignore. I think we got that one earlier. Refusa, how hard or brittle is silicon? Is it easy to scratch? It can be, yeah, for sure. So we've got chat talking about the junction temperature of the sun now, which I greatly appreciate. I like that. You won't find that kind of discussion in any other live stream chat. Silicon can be easy to scratch. So there's a thing on the die. The actual, we'll call it components, doing all the work on the silicon are going to be closer to the substrate, that's the green part, than they are to the surface in most instances. And the top of it will generally have what's called a diffusion barrier. I learned that specific information from Der Bauer many years ago. So it's got a diffusion barrier on it, and that helps protect it a bit. So you can kind of scratch up the diffusion barrier. Certainly wouldn't recommend it, but things will still run. However, once you get to HBM, especially, it's very fragile. And with HBM, you can, say, clean around the outside of it. And we, back when we were disassembling cards with HBM, recommended against this. But if you use like your fingernail or something to try and get in between the HBM die, like crevice, to get the thermal paste out, then there was a somewhat decent chance you could damage it by scratching it. So the answer, how hard or brittle is it? Is it easy to scratch? It can be easy to scratch, yes. It sort of depends on what it is and what kind of protection barrier they have on it. Okay, Abit and Asus used to be huge competitors. That's cool. I should look up more about them. The username here is blank, but they sent $10. Thank you. It said, why is the die rotated like that? Excellent question. I asked Asus. I asked AMD the same question, and I said, hey, is there just curious, is there a particular reason? And when you ask questions like that, you have to say just curious. Otherwise, they think that you're trying to dig their grave, and they're going to try and figure out what angle you have. I was just curious. So after they consulted internally, they did come back with an answer. And what I was told is that, I'm not 100% sure if this is why, but they said it's because of the packaging they use for laptops where since you want the VRM components in the memory to be a certain distance from the GPU silicon itself, it, I guess, helped them to achieve those nominal distances by rotating the die. I don't know how, I can't verify that, but I have no reason to not believe them. That'd be a weird thing to make things up about. So that was their explanation. It makes sense, I guess. And I guess, as for why they rotate it when they put it on the substrate for DGPU, I don't know. I guess if I haven't looked at the laptop ones, but if they're all on the same sort of substrate and package, then I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay, next one. Trevor Mundy, oh, there it is. The RTX 3060M has a TDP of 80 watts. Why don't we have desktop GPUs that are as powerful and can be powered by PCIe slot only, 75 watts? So PCIe slot can do 75 watts. It does 66 at the 12 volt, and then the rest of it, the other 9 or so, comes from 3.3 and 5 volts. So one of the challenges is 12 volt, where you really shouldn't be pulling 75 watts through 12 volt in a PCIe slot. That's technically out of spec. They'll mostly, they would be incompliant with the spec. So that's one reason, is 12 volt limitation. And the other one is being a laptop, there's a lot of special tuning they do for laptops. They'll do stuff. I haven't followed the 30 series laptops, to just make that really clear. So I don't know what they've done there. I've focused only on desktop for this generation. But a lot of times in the past, they'll sort of make a cut down version. They play around with frequency and core count and manage a balance where it is more power optimized and is built to work with the CPUs that it's expected to work with in a laptop, as opposed to literally anything in a desktop. Okay. Gerard's text says, no one likes laptops anyway. That makes me sad. CC, good to see you back. CC says, Steve, I need an even larger mouse mat. Also, tater tots. I think there's time to get tater tots after the stream. I mean, not for you, unfortunately. I don't know where you are, but for us. There might be, maybe where you are, there's time to get some too. I agree on the second part for sure. I need an even larger mouse mat. We've talked about it. I would kind of need to figure out like what specific dimensions it is people most want. Right now we are carrying the one size, and it seems to really make a lot of people happy. So we've got a fixed amount of money we can spend on product, and it's easier for us to pick something that we think will work well for our design and for the most buyers, and then try to accommodate that and save the other money for some other product. But all that said, I have seen the request for them, and it's something we've talked about. We just need to figure out what size that is. Okay. Let's see. I'm just reading the comments. People are talking about tater tots now. VAV247 24/7 says Cajun tots, so good. I don't think I've tried Cajun seasoning on tater tots. It's something we can make happen, though. That is, we are capable. I believe with someone here probably knows how to do that. It sounds complicated, but I think we can get it done. All right, gonna scroll through it. We have a lot more super chats to scroll down through, but I saw one coming just now from Tech Potato. Right when we're talking about tater tots, Tech Potato shows up. Ian Kudges from Anantech and his own channel, Tech Potato, says, "Hey Steve, how are the chips tasting? Excited for hot chips?" You know, Ian, I know that your signature thing is eating a wafer, as in like a silicon wafer for those who aren't aware. And frankly, I'm just a little intimidated. I haven't tried it before. I'm afraid of things like eating silicon. It works for you, and you get a lot of CPUs tested, so maybe you're extracting power from them. I'm not sure how it works. We're going to take a closer look and try and figure it out, and then next stream I'll eat silicon wafers, and if anything goes wrong, it'll be your fault. Okay, next one is from, did I get this one yet? No. Adrian Petrov said, "Thanks, Steve." Back to you, Adrian. Next one, Module Cell. I have an 850 watt power supply. I have 4 14 terabyte hard drives. I want to use, oh man, this is getting complicated fast. I want to use 8 16 terabyte hard drives. Do I need to upgrade my power supply to 1200 watt PSU? Thanks, keep up the good work. 4 14 terabytes and wants to more or less double to 8. I don't know the other components in your build. The CPU and the GPU will dictate more heavily what power supply you have. Hard drives do take a decent amount of power. I'm not sure the modern numbers on those. I remember a long time ago when I tested it, it was like, some of them were like 30 watts. I don't know if that's still what they draw. I haven't tested 3.5 inch hard drives for power a long time. I'm sure there's numbers out there. Probably the manufacturer spec is trustworthy on that. I mean, they supply data centers. It should be. So to answer the question, do you need to upgrade your power supply, will, I think, hinge more on what CPU and GPU do you have. And to try and get the answer to that, you can look up power consumption numbers for your CPU and CPU reviews. Make sure you understand if it's at the wall or at the cables. And then you can add that to the GPU power consumption numbers from GPU reviews. Same thing, if they're both at the cables, you can more or less add them together to get like a picture of 100% load. But it's a little more complicated than that. Most of the time, only one of them is going to be fully maxed. The other one won't be fully maxed. But if you want to really leave overhead, that'll help you leave overhead on the CPU and GPU. I'm going to cut off the super chats. We're going to read all the ones that are here, but I'm going to, I won't be reading any ones after this time, which is 8:57 p.m. 8:57 p.m. Eastern. Okay, all right, let's unhide that. I'm going to go through all the other ones, though. So if it's in here, it'll be read. Oh, thanks. CC says to be super conservative at about 20 watts per hard drive. So if CC's correct on that, and I have seen good info out of CC before, then hopefully that helps. Let's see. All right. Next one. Ion Mazer says, "Hey, Steve, did you guys look at Main Gear or Digital Storm for pre-builts yet?" Not yet. I'd be interested to see what a boutique SI can do. I agree with you. I'm also interested in Falcon Northwest. They've been around a long time. They're still more or less around. So I'd like to look at what they're doing these days, too. Those three are on my list for sure. They are on the more expensive side, though. So I don't know when we'll get to them. Eskamonster said, "Why don't Linus donate?" Linus doesn't donate because Linus knows that if he posts a message in chat, probably I'll see it. So he knows. Linus knows what he's doing. Although one time he did spam $1 donations to our chat just to spam them, and his credit card, I think, actually got frozen because it looked fraudulent because he was just spamming $1 donations to YouTube. So I enjoyed that. I think he should do that more often, especially if I get $1 each time. Although the conversion rate's not really that favorable, but close enough. Leviathan Prim says, "Hello, GN. Thank you for the power supply and SI content. It was good to see Wendell in the hardware news." Yes, I want to do more work with Wendell sometime soon. We have ideas. We're kind of slowly working on some stuff in the background, but I'm not sure what the next one will be. Really fun to work with him. And he's not too far from us, so it could be done more easily. Pasquizzle the Shedman says 6600 XT is about $589 to $699. Okay, Aussie dollars and in stock. Love to see you're doing more live streams again. Hope this lets you afford an anechoic chamber. Hey, the 5 AUD will help. Like, for sure, anything helps with that. Maybe that, if we're lucky, that's a year out. I don't know. It's complicated with that thing. But I don't know if 590 to 700 AUD is good compared to the rest of the market there. But if they're in stock, that is good. Because if the price isn't good and they stay in stock, it'll come down. But at least there's stock. That's good to see. Okay. So Linus got dropped by his credit card company. Question mark. Always the drop-in. It's always the drop-in. Let's see, super chat. Scroll down for me. Who's did I read last? Oh, is Gordon in chat? I'm being told Gordon is in chat. Is he under his name or PC World?
His name.
Oh, his name. Oh, there he is. Gordon Ma'an, whose Twitter handle I think is fake Gordon Ma'an, because that's how he runs. Says, I've been ignoring for about an hour or so. Good. That is what the title requests. I'm glad it's working. Good to see Gordon in chat. Gordon works at PC World. They do streams too. He's awesome, a lot of fun to work with. Check out their channel if you haven't seen it. Okay, let's see. I got that question. We're just going through all the super chats and we'll close out. We did the teardown already if you're tuning in late. And Andrew's jumping over quickly to show what's left of it. Got that question. Okay, Thomas, $20. Thank you. Says, hey Steve, I have a PowerColor Red Devil 5700 XT that I'm happy with, except one of the fans makes a ticking noise at all RPMs. I can't find any replacement fans. What would you recommend I do? Good question. Thanks, Steve. Back to you, Steve. 5700 XT Red Devil makes a ticking. So you may have done a lot of this. I know there's a limited amount of space for the super chat, but I'm going to list them anyway. There's making a ticking. The first thing I do is look for cables that are maybe, as Andrew's worrying about the cable on his headphones, that are maybe in contact with the fan. So look internally. This happens on one of our 3080s or 2080 Ti's, where the cable clips actually at certain RPMs, but not all of them, because the fan has some liftoff. But look for clipping cables. The next thing would be look for if the fan blade is touching the inner wall of the shroud. I've seen that too, and sometimes it doesn't happen at all RPMs. So look for those two things. You might be able to just remove it and reinstall it and try to only tighten each of the screws like 25% and keep going 4 times around a circle to try and get it as centered as you can. That might be enough. Sometimes an extra 0.5 millimeter is enough to shut it up. If none of those are it, and you do think it is in fact the fan, your best option is look at the code, try to find it on eBay or something. If you can't find it, my advice, I guess, would be to email PowerColor and try to just ask them to send you, please just send me a fan. I don't want to send my card off. Please just send me a fan and see if they can help you out. Tech Potato in chat said, me versus Steve versus Wendell versus Linus. Does that say cat? Okay, cat video face off. Just making sure. It does in fact make sense. I think that context is perfectly sensible, but I wanted to make sure. You can probably, does that mean like our cats battle? Because I'm not sure that's legal or that we should do that. Or does it mean that we make cat videos and our cats are benchmarked in some way, like kibbles per minute consumption or jump height? Okay, next one. Let's see. Revenant says, got my small mod mat and love it. Glad to hear that. Also, what does the fox say? I think it says ga 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 ga, or whatever the song was. The Hollow says, how old is that? Video idea. do a bill of materials for 6600 XT. We could get a better idea of cost to manufacture them. I'm sure Red and Green are capitalizing market demand, although client base is not their norm. You are absolutely right on that. It's hard to do a BOM for most devices. With certain manufacturers, I can kind of get it. You always have to question how truthful they're being. So then you start going down the hole of, all right, we can literally price out every component on the board. That's kind of difficult. We don't know if they have certain bulk ordering prices, and we ultimately don't necessarily know the price of the GPU plus the memory. That's the hard part. So I do like the idea. We've done stuff like that in the past, but it kind of depends on how close I am to contacts at partners at the time who would share that info. Okay. New unit of measurement, kibbles per minute. Daryl Scott, $10, says, my 5700 XT that cost $600 died 3 months after paying too much for it. What is the likelihood they're relaxing QC standards for components? Very high. The likelihood for that is exceptionally high, because why would you QC it if it's going to sell anyway? Just hope it doesn't fail and then deal with it later. And hopefully the deal with it later is actually dealing with it, not stringing you along. But if it's new, I hope you can get a refund on it. Well, yeah, maybe not a refund, but a replacement. You're 3 months in, so. And if you bought it used, I don't know, you could try to go through your used broker like eBay or whatever, but that sucks. Alexandru says, we need a Steve J and a Linus WAN show. I think I was on the WAN show once with like 2 other guests. We each shared a segment. Jay might have been one of them. That was fun. RIRWM, will you ever shave your beard? Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's not. Depends on how much time I had that week. Cocky Joe TM says, is it worth it to get an AIO cooler for the EVGA 3080? Good question. So, depending on which 3080, worth it is kind of tough. Strictly speaking, worth it, no. Like as in, is it worth the money? Am I going to get proportional gains? No, you're probably not. You're definitely not. Worth it, like it gives you something fun to do, or you're overclocking and you want some competitive headroom, yes. It is worth it for that. You'll get a bit more headroom. Bringing down the temperature will boost the frequency that it runs at even without you doing anything. How much that affects gaming, it's typically like single-digit percentages these days, and they're low. So I don't think it's worth it if you're just going to connect it and then that's it. If you want to learn about disassembling, building a video card, it's worth it. But otherwise, not particularly. Geo Neves said it needs more cowbell. Can't disagree with that. Alex says, you never forget first D, referring to the fan manufacturer, just to be clear for the YouTube overlords who are going to demonetize us. 6 million said, do not, just to be clear, do not send $6 million, that's the name. 6 million said, I bought tons of 1080 Ti's for cheap, currently supplying the bros with GPUs. If you got 1080 Ti's for cheap, that's awesome. The 1080 Ti is still like my favorite card that's been made anytime recently. Ralphie says, thanks, Steve. Back to you. The Ozum says, hi, Steve. Hi. Good to see you back. Aaron Huffman says, back to you, Steve. We got like 3 back-to-back here. We're on a roll. ETHG says, tech and mountain biker, we should send it and speak about the RTX 4080. I don't have anything on the 4080 yet. Have there even been rumors yet? I don't think they're anywhere close to that. I mean, why would they, I guess? Sell everything anyway. Shade Cyclone, is the 5800X worth the buy? Planning to buy one. I prefer the 5600X or the 5900X. The 5800X is in a bit of a middle ground. The 5600X I like more for the gaming side. The 5900X I like more for the production side. I can see an argument for the 58. I don't think it's necessary for gaming. I don't think it's necessary for gaming and streaming even. I could see it being useful if you sort of do production workloads that are thread-based, but not too frequently enough to justify 5900X. So that's kind of a narrow gap where I would recommend it with a firm recommendation. It's not bad. It's just you can save a little bit with a 5600X, or you can get a lot more with a 5900X, although I don't think that's too commonly available. So a lot of people bought the 58X for that reason. Charles said, "Would love to see you do some OCs on the 6600XTs that have the huge 6800XT level coolers." Thoughts? Yes, we could definitely do that. I could maybe strap a liquid nitrogen pot to it, but I'm not sure if the hole spacing is the same too. Steel Gray Rider says, "Love the channel." Thank you. Ricky sent $10 and a sticker that says #1 fan. Thank you. The stickers are always funny. I think we are approaching the bottom of the list. Eddie Giovanniello, no message. Aliana Cordova, no message. Thank you to both. 6 Million said, "Do you think Half-Life 3 will be available on the Steam Deck 8? I don't know if that's intentional 8 or not. That's very ambitious of you if it is. That's very, very ambitious. Will it be available if it gets made? I don't think it's going to come out with it, though. Aliana Cordova said, "I goofed last time. Wish I could give more, but thank you guys for how much info you give us on hardware and other products. Been watching for years." Cool. Thank you. It's always interesting to see people comment when they say they've been around since whatever year, because so much has changed. Every year a lot changes with how we do things. We improve stuff. So I did say I would cut off super chats, but this one says, "Steve, bring the gold cat out so we can say hi." That's interesting phrasing. It's going to stop waving. There you go. Okay. Tom Kavulik says, "What does it say on the golden cat's arm? How's your Chinese coming along, Steve?" I think my speaking has gotten a lot better since last time we were in Asia, and it'll help a lot with factory tours now. I'm at a point where I can ask some questions, get some answers, and hopefully cut out some of the mistranslations. However, I am illiterate. I cannot read characters. Andrew can read some characters. I don't know, can you read those? It definitely says something about fortune, for sure. I think there's a foo character in there, but I'm not sure. Definitely something about fortune. But yeah, it was too much to try and learn both. I couldn't do it. Maybe later. I would like to, and I should, but one thing at a time is enough for now with that. It's hard enough language already. Chat is like spamming hi and hey. Every time you point it at the cat, chat's saying hi. And it's pointed at the screen behind Andrew that's showing us the chat and the stream. So if it's sentient, then it can read your messages. Love the zoom in, they're saying. Yeah, so basically, so Min.Gao says, basically the word in the arms is saying bring luck and treasure. I thought it was something like that, but one day I'll be able to read characters. Okay, they're still spamming hi, it's awesome. Nick Vargas sent $5, no message. Revenant sent $5. Oh, now they're really going crazy with it. The chat just went like, Revenant, I guess the stream delay caught up. Oh, we got the Steve versus Linus repair competition. If Linus loses, he has to wear one of the Gamer Nexus shirts for a year. If Steve loses, Linus gives him a haircut. That's not fair at all. But I won't lose, so that's fine. AN47 Pro says, "Wishbone is cultured. I still have my copy of Beetle Adventure Racing from when I was a kid. I tip my fedora to you." Ultima 9 says, "No need." Oh, here you go, Andrew. Davidion says, "The arm on the cat says back to you, Steve." Let's see. Ultima 9 says, "No need to reply to this one." Well, I'm doing it anyway. Thank you. Says, "Just want to show my support. Thanks for putting on a great show. Always enjoy seeing the GN notifications pop up." Thanks. Thanks for watching and for supporting in this way. All of it helps a lot, and I'm glad that you get some kind of value out of the streams or the videos. Jacob Laster said, "Once there's a distro with simple gaming support, AMD will have incentive to add RDNA 2 support on ROCm." Wow, I forgot about that. Hopefully there aren't hardware limitations and the OS doesn't interfere. I'll dump NVIDIA in a heartbeat for more VRAM. That's valid. If you know what you need it for, yeah, sure. Definitely. AMD will have, yeah, so this makes sense to me. AMD should benefit from more Linux support, I think, in general for gaming, so it makes sense that they would work on it too. Okay. Can you juggle? No. We can try it with video cards or CPUs, see how people react. RF Merrill, have you encountered phase change TIM in a consumer product? Kind of, or in gaming hardware. It's interesting stuff, but I don't know if they'd spend the money in a product where the customer might just replace it. Sort of, maybe. The closest thing I've encountered is a liquid metal thermal pad where it's actually like a solid when you apply it. It's a thermal pad. And then when it heats up past a certain temperature, I think it was 60 or 70 on that product, it liquefies and turns into more standard liquid metal. And then it cools down and it turns back into just a pad that you can pick up and move. And the liquid's not gonna like fall off of it if you move it around. Or if you like flip the card, was one of the other benefits of it. But there were some downsides. It would stick to the heatsink, and it was basically done after that. You're not putting anything else on there ever with that one. I don't know if they ever shipped it to market. So interesting stuff, though. VC has changed his name. The VC Pester says, is Linus Tech Tips a computer guy like you? I'm not sure. This is the first time I've ever heard of Linus Tech Tips. Is that a middle name, Tech, or I'm not sure if that's, maybe it's French, I don't know. But anyway, Linus Tech Tips, first time I've heard of him. We'll check out his channel after this. Mythos Mint says, okay, we got that joke already. I'm not gonna read it multiple times. RF Merrill, I've used the magnetic screw trays that sell for working on cars before that they sell. Not all screws in electronics are magnetic, unfortunately. Correct. That is because they're made of different metals. If you're working with like aluminum screws, for example, not gonna be magnetic. Jeff Geerling, no message, thank you though. Adam Jimenez says, hello Steve, we've been trying to reach you concerning your vehicle's extended warranty. You should have received a notice in your mail about your car's extended warranty eligibility. Thanks. I can't escape them. We're almost through these super chats and then we'll be done. Mark Wickings says, hey Steve, loving the Volt mod, Matt, but really want a set of the GN tools. Any chance they'll be back in stock again or pre-orders? Loving the stream. Thank you. So yeah, toolkits, great question. A lot of people have been asking that. They are in manufacturing. We're approaching a point at which we'll have a date for when they'll arrive. And as soon as we have a firm date, we'll put them up on back order. The reason we do it this way, I don't like putting stuff up for back order when I don't know firmly when it's going to get here. I want people to know exactly the window. We've been pretty good on the window estimations. We tend to be conservative on the far side. So we'll let you know in a news video as soon as they're up for back order, but they're not yet because we don't have a firm date on arrival. We're going to wait until we have that. I'm thinking probably a couple months at this point, but we'll let you know. Definitely appreciate the interest though. Okay. Ola Hammerstrom says, just a drunk, ... Fair enough. Cricket Man Diddley Smith says, totally ignoring the stream, but when Screwdriver restock. Just got that one. That's very convenient. Adam Jimenez says, who has the better hair, aka Tech Jesus or Gun Jesus from Forgotten Weapons? I think I'll have to let chat decide that one. I'm not sure. Tamarius Rodis, Nexus, my homie 2 months ago bought a Gigabyte GP550 Plus B. Am I in danger of burning my whole PC? We have not tested that one. As far as we're aware right now, the only power supplies that we're concerned about would be the specific 750 and specific 850 models we named. They make other 750s and 850s that are fine. In fact, we've been using one in our case testing bench for a long time now. So if it's not one of those two power supplies we named, then we have no reason to suspect one way or the other that it's bad. Hopefully that answers that. Doesn't mean it's okay, but I haven't tested it. So if you haven't seen a bunch of reports about it, it's probably okay though. Revenant, explain the Star Trek ship on the bench. Back there, I saw it at a what would you call it? I guess maybe like, I don't know what you would really call it. It's almost like it's like a nerd antique store is what it is. Hobby shop maybe. I saw it at one and I thought, this is cool, I like this, and then I bought it and I put it there. That's pretty much the story. I like TNG, and some of the other ones sometimes, depending on which era we're talking about. The Master of Cubes. I was looking for reviews of Corsair SFX 750 watt power supply, and everything about it was good except that it had a very low hold-up time. How much of a problem is that? Should I be scared to use it? Probably not. Like, probably not. Shouldn't be scared to use it. That's something we could probably, I'm going to write that down actually. So next week we're going to be working on another power supply video about protections. So Patrick Stone's going to be talking about like OCP, OTP, OPP, all those protections and what they kind of mean. It's not going to be, probably not published next week because we need to do some peer review in the industry, but we're going to start working on it. I've added hold up time to the list, and I will ask him to go into some of the review stats that you might see, because that's a good question. I don't think it should particularly bother you unless you have a reason to. 132.jpg. I've heard RGB is the most important feature because you can literally see it. I love the Intel memes. Ruben Maher, is 3090 Kingpin overpriced? I don't know, what does it cost? 3090 Kingpin. Is it available? Well, the place I just found it is $3,670, so yes. The next question, Henny G says, for a card with G6X memory on the back, it's like a 3090, isn't it better to just remove the backplate and leave the VRAM on the back basically exposed? It can be. If you have a fan pointed at them, it can be, for sure. But otherwise, no. I think we've got, let me highlight this one, how many here? Not too many. Yeah, we're making good progress here. Kanza, would you consider doing a GN PC build for the year or each year with the best value core components? It's like the opposite of the disappointment build. I don't know what that is. It's the appointment build. Close enough. We thought about that last year. I remember looking at that, and it was like right when the shortages were still kind of fresh and really bad. And so we didn't do it. But I do like the idea. It's the opposite of disappointment build. I think it makes sense. We can probably do that this year. I'm hoping this supply eases up. Looks like it's going that direction. Deep fried lettuce. Didn't send a message, but I like the name. RF Merrill said, I don't know if this will apply to your work, but for stubborn connectors that I have to unplug frequently, I sometimes rapid fix the wires where they go into the connector so I don't break them off. That also makes sense. Mark 903, does the GN bar mat accept DDR5 RAM? We haven't tested it. I have not tried socketing DDR5 RAM in the bar mat, but perhaps we can do a revision where it fits. I don't know. I don't know where to go with that. There it is right there. Okay. Sean Miller said, should drop into the WAN show and troll him like he did you. Is he live? If he's still live when we close this out, I will. Corey Reynolds, 3000 series have had major issues in VR with stuttering and frame drops since October. No fix in over a year. Is this something you think they can't fix or they would have by now? That's a well-phrased question. So I'll start this with, I'm not familiar with the stuttering just because I don't follow VR too closely. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe there's not enough pressure for them to fix it, and so they haven't because they have other things to fix, like cards blowing up in games that come out. I don't know. For sure, there's stuff like that that's happened in the past where it's like, okay, it's not fixed. It's clearly never going to be fixed at this point. I don't know if that's the case here. VR is popular enough, especially right now, that I would think there'd be pressure internally. I'm not familiar with the issue, but I wish I could say we'd look into it, but we don't have a good setup for VR testing anymore, at least not right now. We don't have any modern VR headsets either. But to answer the question, I think they're probably focusing on other stuff, and maybe a fix will come out, but NVIDIA, when it forgets about things, it tends to forget them forever. So I don't know. It's like I'm a little hesitant with them. Leviathan Prim, best live stream this week. Thanks, Steve. That's good, because the first one we've done this week. Our Meryl said silicon is quite hard, surprisingly light, but very brittle. It is really sharp if it breaks. That's true. We have broken it. I once broke off a corner of a chip die, and it still worked, probably because it was the bottom side. That's true, too. So that's a good point. And if you're curious to see what the silicon actually looks like inside of the die, or the diffusion barrier in the die, you can check out a video we did with Tin, formerly from EVGA. And Tin's an awesome engineer. Really fun video with him. Maybe Keegan can find it and put it in chat. What was that called? Try typing like blowing up a video card with Tin EVGA or something. And the video starts with him taking a CPU repair tool. You may have never heard of it, actually. We have one here. He starts the video with a CPU repair tool, which looks like this. So these are pretty specialized. And he takes the CPU repair tool and he smashes the silicon. And the reason is he does that with an engineering board or a dead board, or I think it was a dead board, so it had no value. And showed us sort of the inside of the silicon. It was pretty cool. And he told me, don't touch that, it's sharp. Aviv Ben Herrick says, when prices for GPUs come back to normal, what would you recommend as far as pure gaming, 6800 XT or 3080? I liked both when they launched. I thought they both made sense for different things. 3080 made more sense for high resolution and ray tracing performance. And if you don't care about that, then the 6800 XT made a lot of sense for 1440 or 1080. Okay. Mags Dies says, dono goal for you to straighten your hair. KL, semicolon, right parentheses. Luck Dragon says, come join us on Star Citizen. Please don't kill our party like Linus. I'll let you fly the Karak. We used to do a lot of coverage of Star Citizen, actually. Were you able to find that video or no? Yeah. Okay, cool. So it should be in chat, I guess. Yeah. Matt Coffin said, any desire for a chat with an independent AMD GPU, Linux AMD GPU driver contributor? I'm not big time, but I write the Navi 1X overclocking support and VR for Proton. Probably. I think that it would probably make sense for us to get a better idea of the Linux driver side support for AMD stuff as the Steam Deck comes out. So that'd be a good thing, where maybe like an email to team@gamersnexus.net, and then what we'll do is, as we run into questions when we get to the Steam Deck, we'll send it over to you, send over questions, see if maybe you have some ideas or can point us the right way. Thank you. Wench, okay. So I'll go troll that one a little bit. Hornet says, I somehow got a 3080 Ti FE for retail price. Unfortunately, I paid retail. Also, memory is nearly as hot as the sun. Anything to improve it. Fans is probably the easiest thing. Point fans at it. You can do weird stuff in your case and try and kind of like rig the fan so it's at the edge of the board and point it down at the back. That might help. Otherwise, tweak the fan curve in Precision or Afterburner. That might help. Or water cooling, I guess. I don't really. That's getting expensive, though. Shane Conroy, no message. Okay, we're in the last, I think, like 3 or 4 here. So this is going to be it. The Big Dog says, hey, Steve, is 1.36 V-Core okay on a 10900K at 5.2 all-core? I don't want to kill my chip. 1.36, I think, is fine, depending on what you mean by that. So if it's 1.36 set, what you typed in BIOS, make sure that's what it's actually running at. Hardware info will give you a decent idea for that. If you're blasting LLC, 1.36 might be 1.40, but likely it's 1.36 or a little below. And I think that's okay. It's hard for me to say. I can't commit to if it's okay long-term for longevity. It should be fine, but we don't have enough data to really know. But I would personally be comfortable with that. Paul Franks, no message, thank you. We got that one. Okay. Colonel Indiana says, how do you measure your custom cables? In what capacity? We don't have custom cables. If you mean like you're buying custom cables, I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. Like I guess you either would go for the length of the cable or the wire gauge. Maybe I would check. I just check the manufacturer. Maybe I'm missing the question. Okay, I think we're good here. We're pretty much done at this point. I'm going to do the last page of super chats and then we're done. Kodak, can you perhaps take a look at the Gigabyte 3080 Extreme Waterforce card? No current plans. Normally I would say yes, but there's more interesting stuff for us to work on right now, and the GPU interest is just not high enough. So we got limited time for limited things, and at the moment I'm not doing a lot of partner models. Sorry, I would love to normally, but Mike Evans said, love the videos. Thank you. Great detailed information. Dedication to always improve is appreciated. And says the mouse mats are sweet, by the way. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Wookie Drew, $5, sent a super chat sticker with a hippo that has a wheel and is going fast. I have not seen that one before, but I like it. Khan says, memory 3600 CL16 versus 38 CL18. What's your estimate on the percent performance difference? I can't. That's not like a thing I can do. So the reason is when you plug those two kits into the board and you just set XMP, there's a whole bunch of other timings, and it's going to set those auto. So CL16 versus 18, you might be getting like a different TRFC on one than the other. It could maybe one's 724, maybe one's 312. That would have a difference that would reflect in the results. Maybe 4-act window is different. So that's not enough information to sort of predict the difference. Also with AMD, you get into sort of what's your IF ratio too. Okay, Jose Cortinas says, hey Steve, huge fan, thank you. I use your mouse pads as as placemats in my dining room. Amazing stuff. Will I be able to purchase a GN branded NO2 tank and a large tool bench? I don't have plans for tanks or large tool benches. Maybe we should make our own liquid nitrogen tanks, though. Maybe that's the next natural progression, is to start manufacturing something that contains a liquid which can be explosive. It doesn't sound like. I'll just call the insurance company and say, yes, I would like to add coverage for a new product. And they'll say, what is it? And I'll say, it contains liquid nitrogen. And they'll be like, what is that? And then I'll say, don't worry about it. Guaranteed they'll say, what is that? That's what they said when I told them about like mouse pads. Ranroy says, WTF was BioStar thinking of that GP release? Probably the same thing BioStar always thinks with their cards. Laserhawk 64. Heard graphics cards only use 12-volt power. Why is that? I came to PCs via electronics. Please be technical. I don't have really that technical of an answer. So through the PCIe slot, you will see some 3.3 volt and some 5 volt draw, for sure. We've measured it. It's not very high. It's only maybe a couple watts. You'll see like 0.3 sometimes. So there's not a lot of power there. 12 volt, you know, I don't know sort of why originally that was decided to be used. I guess that's the most common voltage rail in the computer in general, and that's what they use. But I'm sorry, I don't have like the historical answer for why 12 volts. What happened to cause that? It's probably in the ATX Power Supply Design Guide. I bet they talk about it though. That'd be something. Patrick Stone would be good for that one. I can get him to look at that for the Power Supply piece too. Hardware Unboxed posted in chat and said, can you give me a free graphics card? You know, Hub, something tells me, and I'm not sure what it is, that you probably have a lot of those. And I'm not sure, just something's coming to my mind. Maybe I'm like a psychic, something about benchmarking 48 GPUs in some game. I can literally see it. So I think you probably have enough, but if you really need one, I'll send you this. Is that okay? Can I send you this thing? I don't want to reassemble it, so if I could, that would be great, thanks. I'll just put all the parts in a box loose. When you receive it, you can shake it and it'll sound like a broken Christmas ornament. Okay, that's gonna be it for the super chats. All right, I see 2 more came through, but one was just, hi Steve, back to you, Steve from Leon Kieran. What are your thoughts on articles about NVIDIA's releases being generated? I'm not sure what that question means. I don't know what that release is being generated, sorry. That's gonna be it though. Thank you for watching. I'm glad the test stream seemed to have gone okay. It's fun disassembling stuff, fun hanging out with chat. And end of the night, the discount code on the store will expire. That was just send help for 10% off for the store through about 11:59 p.m. or so Eastern. And I actually just got an order from Sam from Parkville, who picked up a Volt mod mat. So thank you, Sam. All right, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.